Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Woodmere Estate Revival. Today we're working in the house doing some more demolition work. Yesterday we finished up tearing out all the kitchen cabinets. We took down all the faux beams in the family room and really opened that place up. I mean, it turned out really nice. It really opened the place up. Got rid of all those stinky moldering cabinets. They were so bad, and so it was great to get all that stuff out of there. We were able to salvage some of the cabinets, and we're actually thinking of using those in the laundry room upstairs. We found some base cabinets and some wall cabinets that had not sustained any water damage and appear to be in good shape. So we're going to clean those up and paint them up and use those in our laundry room upstairs. Today though, we're going to be working on some sheetrock issues. I've got some cleanup to do in the dining room, the laundry room, the kitchen, just kind of going through and pulling some sheetrock and some trim down, getting ready to go back with fresh there. And then I'm also going to be working in the living room. We haven't really touched the living room a whole lot yet, except for just pulling out furniture and old carpet remnants. In the living room, we've actually got to take the sheetrock up about 4 feet. The water damage in that room eventually, seeped up into the wallboard. Some of the paint's peeling off, some of the trim has rotted. We're not going to take the entire wall out like we have in some of the other rooms because it didn't affect the entire wall, and we're being really careful with the ceiling. The ceiling in the living room has this really pretty plaster work on it, and we're afraid to disturb it for fear that it will damage it and won't be able to retain that. So we've been really careful in there. So what we're going to do today is go inside and mark 4 feet up on the wall, and then I've got a rotozip tool and a drywall saw, and I'm going to go across there and cut it off at 4 feet. We'll rip out the bottom 4 feet, and that'll make it really easy for the drywall guys to come in, use full sheets of drywall and put that in and get it all slicked up and looking good. So that's the plan for today. So we've got some help coming in from out of town. Amber's mom and dad are coming in. They're going to give us a hand, and they're going to be down here after a while getting ready to tear into this stuff with me. Let me show you where we're starting today. So here's the formal living room, and you can see the detail on the ceiling. It's this really pretty border that runs around the corner. You get these rosettes there in the corners, and then out in the field there, you've got this really pretty filigree and rosette right there in the middle. So some pretty delicate plaster work. We don't want to disturb that if at all possible. There's been just some real light water damage in this room and the ceiling. We think that's from stuff that was just spilled upstairs, and seeped down through the floorboards. So there's a couple places that we're going to have to use some stain blocker, some kills, and seal it. But other than that, I think we're going to be able to retain the ceiling and paint it up. Now there is some water damage. Of course, the floorboards are rotted. We're going to be ripping all of that out. But as you can see along the baseboards here, paint's all peeling off. I mean, all this stuff was wet. And that's because these pipes right over here in the wall ruptured. All that water ran across the floor, ran down the stairs and down into this area, and just soaked the carpets, and it just laid like that for months. And so eventually it started wicking its way up the sheetrock. And you can see where we pulled the baseboard off here, there's mold underneath. And the paint peeling off of it is a bad sign. That's an indication that all this stuff has been wet. So we're going to go ahead and mark it at 4 feet, and then pull all this stuff out, take it back to the studs, see if there's any water damage in the studs or in the plate, and go ahead and get that ready for fresh sheetrock. I'll be taking a look at this over here. I'm not sure if I'm going to have to pull this out, but I suspect that it's probably got some issues there as well. So we're going to get started here, take a look at some of the action.
You never know what kind of stuff you're going to find under sheetrock after there's been a renovation. I'm just ripping this wall out, and so here's a box that was put in during the renovation. It just had drywall clips holding it in there. Here's the old switch box. Still has wire going into it, but the drywall just went right over top of it. So no idea if these wires are connected somewhere. I'm going to take a voltage tester to them here in a second, see if they're still hot, but I mean, yeah, this never ceases to amaze me. And we got a junction box hidden behind drywall. We got a wire in it. Let's see if it's hot. Yeah, looks like they just cut them off and shoved it back in there. And then just put drywall mud right over top of it. That is fantastic. Amber and her dad are working furiously. And then last the sheetrock. How's it going, Dad?
Good.
Keep up the good work.
Okay.
How you doing, Jay?
Going well. Going well.
Thanks for your help.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Quite a project.
It is quite a project. So we're pulling down a lot of the sheetrock in here because more of it have water damage. Questionable wiring hiding behind it, plumbing hiding behind it. So we're going to rip all this out so we know exactly what we're dealing with. So we're trying to get as much of this water damage stuff off without taking the whole wall out. Because a lot of this up here is dry, so
Yeah.
we're not too worried about it. So I just took a rotozip tool and used the chair rail as a guide. We ran all the way around the room on top of the chair rail. And then I would use my little handy dandy drywall saw just to go through and knock down any pieces that I didn't get the first time around.
Okay.
Then we go through and just pull all this lower section down.
Yeah.
And hopefully that'll be it in here. We don't have to go up any higher. There's one piece right here that's kind of suspect that we may have
We have to.
we have to go into.
Yeah.
Try not to fall onto the floor.
I was gonna say, I don't think you can capture on video the depth of how much this is sagging. We'll have to be careful tomorrow when we're taking that drywall down.
Yeah, I'm not going down there. You know, with the raccoons and the possums.
You know, yesterday when we were tearing out the kitchen cabinets, we found some suspect things going on behind the walls. We had a piece of lamp cord running in the disposer. We had wires run across the surface of a stud, and just, you know, they'd stick one of these plates over top of it, you know, trying to protect the wire. Be stapled inside a groove inside the stud. Yeah, this looks like they took a hammer and chopped a, you know, groove in the stud and run the wire through it, and then put these little plates over it. So we wanted to go ahead and tear out the rest of this stuff. I'm not sure who did the renovations on this house, but I'm pretty sure they didn't have a license to do this type of work, because we've seen some really shoddy work. Speaking of shoddy, so they have a light above the sink here, and that comes out of this switch right here. The wire runs right up over top of the insulation here, and you can see that rather than, you know, take the wire up in the inside of the wall there, up through the plate and over and across and drop it into this can light, they ran it across the surface of the window header and then put a chain of nail protectors over top of it, and then just laid the sheetrock over top of that. I mean, that's the kind of stuff we're dealing with here. So the wire run right on the surface of the header there for the window, and then they put a chain of those wire protectors that you would normally put on the outside of a stud, you know, to keep somebody from piercing a pipe or a wire when they go to screw the sheetrock to it. So that's the kind of really choice work we're dealing with here on Woodmere Estate Revival. Well, there you have it, folks. Another day on the job, another episode of Woodmere Estate Revival in the books. We had a very productive afternoon. Amber's dad showed up and came down and lended us a hand, and he's been great all throughout this project as well. Our family, we couldn't have done it without him, and can't say enough good things about how much they've pitched in. But let me show you what we've accomplished this afternoon. So Amber and her dad worked in the kitchen here, took down the back wall, all the sheetrock's gone there, and took down the side wall here. You can see the cinder block that goes out into the garage. We wanted to expose all this wiring and expose this this wall here, because all this stuff is getting had some water damage at some point. Guessing that up here between the garage and the house that the flashing has failed in this area, and that water had come down through here. Not for sure, but that there was mold on the back of the sheetrock in this area, so that would make sense. Nothing else, no other water source up here really, so we're guessing it came from the flashing. Either that, or potentially ran in on the duct that goes to the outside for the hood. So maybe that had something to do with it. But anyways, they got all the sheetrock pulled down here and exposed all of this, looking better every day. And then in the living room, I went ahead and scored all the way around the sheetrock, around the entire room, right at the level of the chair rail, and we're going to pull everything down from the chair rail on down to the floor, just to get rid of any sort of mold or mildew, anything from the water damage that happened there in the living room. Everything else seems to be pretty good in there, from the chair rail on up, except for one little area there. So I think we're going to be able to keep the rest of the sheetrock in that room, which would save us a little money, time, and energy. So tomorrow, my in-laws will be back down here. Amber will be back down here. I'm going to work, but the crew will be here working, and they'll be able to get more of the sheetrock torn down and more of the area cleaned up. It's really looking good down here. Thanks for tuning in for another episode of Woodmere Estate Revival. Please subscribe, stay updated on all of our progress, and hit that like button if you like what we're doing here. Thanks again. Take care.